Welcome to Penny for Your Shots, conversations and cocktails with brilliant women. I'm your host, Penny Fitzgerald, and I believe the best stories are the ones shared over a glass of wine or a cocktail. Each week, I sit down with women who've said yes to building something meaningful, often after years of putting everyone else first. We talk business, big dreams, and the mess in between. And of course, a few favorite drinks. So grab a glass, get comfy, and let's pour ourselves into Penny for Your Shots. Many of us have been there, the only woman in the room, trying to share an idea while someone else jumps in and takes it over. This week, I'm joined by Kae Kronthaler-Williams, a longtime tech exec who's helping women name what's really happening and change the conversation. Literally. From calling out bias with grace to building stronger professional relationships, Kae shares wisdom every woman in business needs to hear. Here is Kae Kronthaler-Williams. Hi, Kae.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
So great to meet you.
You too. Nice to meet you.
Where are
I
you
I
located?
am in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Okay. Well, Kae, tell us a little bit about you for my audience benefit. Would you give us your name and a little bit about your background?
Sure. My name is Kae Kronthaler-Williams, and I am a software marketing executive in the tech industry. I've been in the tech industry for over 30 years. And in various industries like supply chain, manufacturing, accounting, and various other industries.
Wow, that's great. So you have been in the corporate side.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So I've worked in some large companies like
Hmm.
IBM,
Oh, yeah.
and Verizon a long time ago, but mostly my career is in mid-size or startup stage up companies.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow, the full gamut.
Yes.
I used to work for EDS.
Oh, I know EDS. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. If you did IBM. So
Yeah.
yeah, I did also supply chain stuff like party logistics and
Yep. Mhm.
working in the distribution center. So I'm kind of familiar with that side of things and
Yeah.
working with a lot of men.
Yes. That's a given when you're in tech, I think.
Yeah, tech and distribution and
Yes.
logistics, the whole bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you get into what you did and how did you get into tech?
So it's interesting. I went to school for international economics, not for marketing. But I was working while I was in college, and I was working at a company that started a software division. And I was actually a telemarketer at that time. And my manager, knew I was going to school and working at the same time. And she said, they're starting a new division. I think you should go for it as a marketing assistant. And so we discussed that it was a downgrade in
Mm,
level and pay,
mhm.
but she's a really smart woman. She used to be like a computer programmer for a long time, so just this engineer. And she said, she's like, if you can do it, I think you should do it because I think it in the long term it's a better career path for you. So that's what I did, and that's what got me
Mm.
into tech, and I haven't looked back. I love tech. I still love it after all these years.
Wow. How did marketing and tech mesh together? How did you
So
like how did that path happen?
how did that happen? So
Hmm.
when I came over as an assistant, it was to the marketing department in this
Uh-huh.
in this software division, this very new
Okay.
software division. So I was a marketing assistant to three women actually, that
Wow.
were running marketing at the time, and
Hmm.
they taught me everything I know, I
Oh.
think, and others did along the way. But most of my marketing experience is hands-on. I
Hmm.
did go back and get my MBA, and that concentration was in marketing, but it was all learned through working. And
Hmm.
I really enjoyed it. I enjoy um, strategy. I enjoy the demand gen and figuring out campaigns, but I enjoy the strategy and positioning, the right messaging, and that just fascinated me. Like, how can we message to customers so they understand what we're trying to sell them? And I just found that really fascinating.
Yeah, that's a lot. though,
Yes.
right? Because, talking to the customers and what their needs are, and then talking to the engineers on the other side, or the tech
Yeah.
people that are going to execute the plan, and
Right.
being that liaison, you have to speak a different language, right? I mean, you kind of
Yes.
have to
You have to be
translate.
able to, that's exactly right. You're a translator. You have to
Yeah.
translate what the product and engineering teams are building, and their verbiage to explain that to you. And thankfully I've had a lot of engineers and product people who are great at breaking down some of the more complex technologies. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when I was starting out in my career, certainly. So I had some really great people to work with, and then being able to understand the customer, doing customer research, market research, and what their needs were, and matching the two, and creating
Mm-hmm.
those messages that would resonate with the target audience, the customers.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And you had a lot of female mentors, it sounds like, too.
In early, I think that was just in that company. I predominantly worked for men
Mm-hmm.
in my whole career. I think I recently, my last company, I worked for one female CEO. As an executive, I've only worked for one female since I
Wow.
became an executive. They were all men. Um,
Wow.
yeah, it's what, and that's, the industry is male
Yeah.
dominated. So I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah.
Most of the CEOs in these tech firms are men.
Yeah. Do you see a shift? Is it changing a bit, or is it still pretty?
Not enough.
Yeah.
There's some women in tech, even some women founders, but we're not getting the investments that men typically get. And actually, in the book that I wrote, there's a part that talks about founders and how many female founders find that they get funding if there's a man who's a co-owner with them,
Oh, wow.
more than if they're by themselves.
Still.
We're still considered risky, a risky investment.
Wow.
Sure. I mean, they don't look at us as being able to run a successful business. There's some of the stereotypes of being a mother and having that, and I'm not a mother, but I see it all the time, having that commitment to family, where that doesn't show up for men.
Interesting, because well, we know we're preaching to the choir here, but women, if you're running a household, you're totally capable of running a company.
That's right. Yep, that's
Oh
right.
my gosh. Yeah, that's really disappointing to hear that it's still, well, we know this to be true. It's still, we need to find
That's a
ways to
huge
work
bias.
together.
We talk, there's, one, I'm sure we'll talk about this, but one of the biases that I see is this maternal bias, that women are regarded differently. Women who have children or want to have children are regarded
Mm-hmm.
differently. We're
Mm-hmm.
not as committed to our roles in their eyes. And the reality is, I think it's like 80% of single parent families in the US are
Mm-hmm.
single mothers.
Mm-hmm.
And 41% of mothers are the primary or sole provider in a household. But we
Mm-hmm.
still don't view it that way. We still view that men need these jobs because they're supporting a family. And I
Mm.
don't know what they think we're doing, but they don't think that we need the money to support a family. So,
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I've seen a shift in the conversations that I'm having with brilliant women,
mhm.
that a lot of the ladies who have been in corporate roles, who are trying to prove that they're very capable of running a
Right.
division or a company, they're breaking out of that. A lot of them are founding their own companies now. They're becoming founders, and yeah,
Yes. Yes. And
getting out of
that's what
corporate.
exactly. And as I was writing my book, I thought, okay, if we're not able to do what we want to do in these companies, the answer is go build our own companies. But when I
Mm-hmm.
started to research that, that's where I found that these founders are trying to get funding. They're struggling on that end. They are dealing
Mm-hmm.
with bias as well, right? Sexism as well, trying to get
Mm-hmm.
funding. So it's just not easy either way.
Wow. What's the title of your book?
It's called Not Made for You, where
Mm-hmm.
women can challenge bias, claim their space, and thrive in a system built for men.
Wow. Wow, that's powerful.
But
So how in your research and in writing the book, how do you feel that we start to make that shift, or how do we support each other in growing our businesses and finding that funding and making it
Yeah,
happen?
I think, well, I think women should continue to try and either stay, if they want to stay in tech in these industries, I think they should. And I think
Mm-hmm.
if women want to go out and found their own businesses, that's great as well, because I think the
Mm-hmm.
more women we have in these fields, then we can hire other women, right? Because
Yes.
we know what we're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for women in a tech industry, the way they can maneuver through that is by naming these situations. We don't, sometimes the bias can be so subtle. So we have
Mm-hmm.
to be aware when it's happening and name it
Mm-hmm.
and address it, right? I mean, that's the first step, is to really sit back and see what's happening in those rooms. Am I being spoken over, or is, Sue being spoken over constantly, and address it? And then I think supporting each other in the rooms, like what typically, and I started to see a little bit of that, and I'll tell you about that in a second in my last company.
Okay.
But a lot of times we are aware of a bias and then we go talk about it after, outside of the room, to each other.
Mm-hmm.
We need to talk about it and address it in the room with the person, always professionally and calmly. And there's ways to do that. And in my book, I
Mm-hmm.
talk about the strategies on how to address certain
Oh, that's
situations.
great.
I give
Mm-hmm.
them the language. If someone says this to you, you say this, right? Or here's what
Okay.
you need to do. So I think we need to start addressing it in those rooms. And then if you are in the room with another woman, support that woman if you're seeing it. Always support them and they'll automatically support you back. And what I noticed in my last company that I was in, it's the first time in my career where I was typically not the only female executive, or maybe there was one more, typically in HR. This one, there were three women and three men as executives. And when I noticed when they're now, number one, we would support each other. If somebody was speaking
Mm-hmm.
over us, we would say, well, actually, Kay just said that, or let's let Kay finish your thought, or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
We did that for each other. But what I also noticed happening is when you had those groups, and maybe it ended up being four women to three men eventually, but we I could tell the men started to respect our views because they had to. And these are
Mm-hmm.
lovely men, don't get me wrong. They were lovely men.
Right.
But
No, it's just a practice. I mean, it's just the way it's
it's
been
social.
done.
Yes, we're socialized that way, right?
Right.
But they started to understand that we had certain parts of our profession, whether it was product, whether we were in customer success or sales or marketing, we knew our business well, because they
Mm-hmm.
couldn't turn their heads and go ask some other guy. If you're the only woman in the room, they can go ask the other men, and they always question you and then ask the men for the advice. When there's
Mm-hmm.
more women in the room, or even more than one, it's more difficult to do. So we ended up having this amazing executive team that learned how to work well together and respect each other's profession. So that gave me hope
Mm-hmm.
for the first time in my career, honestly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you're the first woman in the room, it's risky to speak up,
Yes.
and you have to be brave to speak out. You get labeled, or you're afraid of being labeled.
Yes.
In the past, it was very common to be labeled, well, you're so aggressive. Well,
Yes.
would you call a man aggressive? I don't think so.
Right. Right. And that's one of the other biases, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's that tightrope that we're always playing. Either we're not aggressive enough, or we're too aggressive.
Right.
And so it is difficult to speak up in a room, especially if you're in a room by yourself. But what I found was, if you do it calmly and professionally, they'll start to respect. And you have to demand and command that respect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it should be automatic, but it's not.
Yep.
So there are ways to address it, but you have to be careful. No question. There's times
Mm-hmm.
where you're not going to say it in the room. You're going to go and say it after to the person,
Yeah.
but you still address it. That's the thing we fail to do sometimes. We don't address
Mm-hmm.
it with the person. If you address it in a calm, professional manner in the room, or in your next one-on-one, especially if it's your boss, your leader, right?
Right.
It's difficult to
Mm-hmm.
challenge, and I'm working with CEOs, right? It's difficult to challenge them in a room initially. But if you're
Yes.
building the rapport with them and then you go to them on the side and say, hey, I noticed that when I say something in a room, you go ask John,
Charlie. Yeah.
yeah, or Charlie, his opinion. Help
Right.
me understand why. Like, is there something I'm not, if am I not providing you enough information? Like, always give them the benefit of the doubt,
Mm-hmm.
but you're putting them on notice that you notice what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. I see
Now,
you.
they may slip up and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Some may be very arrogant and not hear anything you have to say, but
Mm-hmm.
most of them are generally unaware,
Mm-hmm.
and they will be more careful in the future,
Yeah.
right?
Wow. That's brave and so brilliant.
Yeah. But I was forced to do it
Oh,
because
yeah.
I was in these rooms by myself and I see this pattern over and over, and it gets very frustrating year after
Oh,
year
yeah.
after year. So I started to address it, but you do all the things around that. I always made sure I mastered my profession, right?
Yes.
Anytime anything changed in marketing, I was on top of it, learning about it, getting that experience. So I had
Mm-hmm.
credibility as well, and that's important. And I was always very calm when I
Mm-hmm.
communicated, right? You have to become a great communicator, very professional always,
Yeah.
even if they're not, even if they're
Yeah.
being rude, even if they're raising their voice, don't do that. And it does work. It works.
Yeah. That's difficult sometimes.
It can be very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. How do
And
you suggest that people do that? How do we stay calm?
so some of it came with age. I'll be honest. I don't know that I would have
Yeah.
handled this well when I was younger. I was a bit of a, I want to say I was a hothead, but you're not a hothead. You're just angry, right? That this is
Right.
happening to
Right.
you. You're shocked. I think we're so shocked when we come into these environments because we're get out of college or out of high school, whatever it is, and
Mm-hmm.
we have these great ambitions and we're excited about our career, and we know it might be a little difficult because we're women, but we don't recognize how frequently and subtly it happens,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So yeah, it's it's a matter of understand, like really being able to read a room and backing up and acknowledging that this is a system that was built for men. When you really look at it through that lens, it's a system that wasn't built for you. So
Mm-hmm.
stop trying to fit in the way they fit in.
Yeah. Right.
So when you look at it that way, you can kind of pull yourself back from the emotion and recognize too that they're not always, now some of these guys are doing it on purpose and they have strong
Mm-hmm. Oh,
biases
yeah.
against women,
Push your
but
button. Mm-hmm.
some of them aren't, right? Some of them it's not
Mm-hmm.
their intent. So if you recognize that, take a deep breath, always pause, and
Mm-hmm.
then react, but react again in a professional manner. It
Yeah.
takes practice,
Yes.
it takes patience, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you may want to do it outside of the room first and then slowly do it inside of the room. Um, if there's more women in the room, you'll feel more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have them as a support system, these are things you're discussing with each other outside of the room to support each other, you'll feel more comfortable because you'll know
Mm-hmm.
they'll have your back, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the ways that I would. But the first thing is awareness. You have to be aware that it's happening.
Hello, friend. Let's be real. When's the last time you did something just for you? Enter Wine Camp 2026. We're talking wine tastings, fire pit chats, sunset dinner cruises, and zero cooking required. Just show up, sip something fabulous, and reconnect with the version of you who loves adventure, sisterhood, and a glass of local Riesling in hand. Sweet, dry, or both. No judgment here. We're heading to New York's gorgeous Finger Lakes, July 31st through August 2nd. And yes, it's as dreamy as it sounds. Secure your spot at pennyforyourshots.com/winecamp. Don't wait. Room options are limited. And my crystal ball says we're going to sell out. Bring your besties or fly solo like the fabulous free spirit you are. You'll leave with new favorites either way. Wine Camp 2026 is calling. The only question is, are you in? Find out more at pennyforyourshots.com/winecamp. Right. Right. And then to make them aware
Yeah.
that it's just the way it's always been done. So it's a habit.
Yes, it is a habit. And we also think it's so subtle that we are like, oh, they didn't mean it. Or
Mm.
did that really happen? So you question yourself and you
Oh,
don't
yeah.
address it. And one of the, I just did a video about something about it's called heap heating when you say something, you have an
Oh,
idea, and then the man takes the idea,
oh, yeah.
which happens. We know that happens.
Of course. Yeah.
But my comment in the video was that this must be addressed because what happens is if that keeps happening to you in a room, you're being devalued. The guy is the one that looks like they have all these great ideas. And so when promotion time comes, who's getting that promotion?
Right.
Not you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I think when we say, oh, we'll let it slide, you can't really let it slide because it's affecting your career path and promotions. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you have to act, right? You have to name it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like heap eating. Yes, I love that. Mansplaining is another one.
Mansplaining, yes, is another one, of course. Yes, we know that.
Yeah. It is very much, it reminds me of systemic poverty, and not really poverty, but it's this system that exists because it's the way it's always been done. And the women who are raising a family or who are contributing to a household, they're contributing their own financial stability. So not getting that promotion, not being the one who is recognized as the one who came up with the idea, it is holding us back in financially and the career path, all of it.
Yes, right. And it affects us. If you think about over the lifetime, we talk about the gender pay gap.
Right.
We talk about it in terms of cents to dollars, but the reality is it's millions of dollars lost if you look at over a 40-year career, right?
Right.
Because everything's tied to that. Our bonuses are tied to that. Our 401k match is tied to that. Our social security is tied to that. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
same for these promotions. We're losing millions of dollars in our career
Wow.
as a result. And so I think if women start to recognize that, maybe they'll
Mm-hmm.
be more apt to speak up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I still agree with you that it gets easier as we get older.
Sure.
Yeah. To
Yes.
speak up.
Yeah.
It's, you get brave.
Yeah. But that's why, I gave language in the book, right? It's
Nice.
practical.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the women that I mentor, they have these situations, and I'll say, well, here's how I think you should address this, or here's how I would address it. And you see their face light up and go, oh, wow, that's not that hard. And I feel like I can do this, right? They
Mm-hmm.
feel relief that this is easy enough I feel like I can address it the way you said to address it.
Nice.
And they feel that relief. And that was part of my reasons for creating the book.
That's great. And that language, it's important to practice it outside of the situation so it becomes easy to say.
Yes, and I say that. Yeah, I agree with you. You have to practice it. You have to be
Mm-hmm.
ready for it. It's part of it is seeing it and seeing how it shows up. These biases show up at work, so
Mm-hmm.
that's part of the book too. It's like I want you to see when and where this shows up, how it shows up for you, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's so subtle you don't recognize it. And then when you are able now, because you're aware of it, you're able to recognize it. Here's the words to use.
Mm-hmm.
In
Do you
fact,
have an example of a situation where you witnessed this kind of thing?
oh, it's all the time. So I'll give you an example. There was one woman who is an executive actually, and
Mm-hmm.
she knew her department so well.
Mm-hmm.
Ask her a question, she had the answer, she had data to back it up. So smart. But they always talked over her in the meetings, constantly. And I actually pulled her aside and said, I think you need to address this.
You were in the room too. You heard
Oh,
this
yeah.
happening.
There was a number of us in the room. Yeah. And it
Okay.
happened all the time. And I
Wow.
said, I think you need to address this with our boss.
Like, what would they say? Like, what kind of things?
Well, they'd ask her a question and she'd give the data, like, okay, 35% of whatever,
Mm-hmm.
customers are not happy for this reason or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would say, hey, they'd go to the CFO or the product person and say, hey, what do you think? Like just completely
Oh,
ignore. sometimes they would talk over her, not let her finish what she was saying, and then go to the men in the room and have the
Oh my God.
conversation. And so, and not the rest of us, just the men in the room.
Okay.
And I said, I think
Hmm.
you need to address it. And she didn't. And I could
Hmm.
see the conversation starting to happen where they didn't think she was good at her job. And they
Oh
let her
geez.
go. They let her go.
Oh my God.
And she was good at her job. She was very good at her job.
Hmm.
But that's what happens if you don't address it. That's what could
Mm-hmm.
happen, I should say.
It's like a pack mentality almost. Like get
Yes.
rid of the weakest.
But she wasn't weak.
No.
She allowed the behavior, though. And it's not her fault, but now I would have addressed that easily.
Mm-hmm.
I have a different personality than she has, though, too, right?
Yeah.
She just was a little bit more soft spoken, but I also think maybe she was just tired of it
Yeah.
and decided that maybe she didn't want to be there anymore. I don't know. But she did not address it. And you just started to see how they would do it more frequently. They would just
Mm.
want the data from her, but then go have the conversation with the guys.
Wow. I'm thinking back to my own experience in a warehouse. And so mostly male managers. And again, they were great guys, but they just didn't get it.
Right.
It was just a male dominated industry. And our boss, we had a new general manager, and we were all sitting around the table. There was maybe one other woman in the room, and the rest were men. And our boss, he would, kind of talk over. And he was very, a much different culture. He came in, we were in Iowa, and he came in from like the Boston area, I think.
Yeah. Right.
And just, whole different culture. And I was so young and not wise.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But just a dude, we're in the room. I mean,
Right.
I just called him out on something,
Yeah.
and then everybody kind of snickered,
Yeah.
and he never did it again. I
Right.
mean, I think I got his respect for standing up to him, but
Yes.
would I do it the same way now? No.
Right. Yes. But I think because I have spoken up, always,
Hmm.
not always, but as I've gotten older, more professional manner, probably not when I was younger. Who knows what I
Hmm.
said, but
Yep.
I think they do respect that.
Yeah.
They do respect that you have an opinion because you think about for me as for CEOs or whoever your leader is, some people just want yes people. They want them just to
Right.
do what they tell them to do, but they get tired of that too. Then they
Hmm.
say, if they
Well,
have
it
to
doesn't
keep,
work.
yes, if I have to keep telling you what to do, then you're not valuable,
Right.
right? So it can backfire.
Hmm.
And I think they may not appreciate everything you say or how you say it, or they may not
Hmm.
agree, but I think they appreciate that you have an opinion and you're trying to help move the business forward, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and just hearing some of the ones who don't care. I was on a very similar situation where you're the person in the middle and you have an account that you're managing and the client, and then you have the people internally that you're translating to and back and forth.
Right.
And getting a call from one of the clients, a male, and he just went off.
Mhm.
And it was a personal attack
Right.
on something that was his fault. And I'm protecting my team from that, but taking
Right.
it all myself. Um, he wouldn't talk like that to the male counterparts
Of
on the
course not.
team.
Of
Yeah.
course.
That the tolerance of that kind of behavior just you can't
No.
let that happen.
No. And you're right. Sometimes they say things to women that they wouldn't say to men. And I
Mm-hmm.
have said to people, would you say that to a man? I will.
Oh,
Depends on who it is and what the
yeah.
situation is, but I will say, now, would you have said that to a man?
Very good
Right.
question.
Sometimes you have to be bold, not always. You have to be
Yeah.
careful,
Mm-hmm.
right? But especially the young, people new in their careers, you have to be careful. You probably have a lot more financial responsibilities as we age, we're more set financially, right? Those are things I always tell people that I mentor.
Mm.
Think about your financial stability first, right?
Mm.
Certainly your mental health and emotional health. If it's too much, then you have to figure things out, but think about your
Mm-hmm.
financial stability too.
How do you stand up? and say some of these things? Or what's a first step for someone if you're talking with someone, a woman who's in a situation where, look, I think this is happening, or they feel uncomfortable at work, or they're not sure how to forward their career. How do you work with them?
Um, yeah, every situation is a bit unique, right?
Yeah.
And the
Mm-hmm.
person's unique, but it is, again, I think they have to have the awareness first and then
Mm-hmm.
name what it is. Name what it is to that person.
Mm-hmm.
You're speaking over me, or you're taking credit. You continue to take credit for ideas that I've taken, that I've
Wow.
come up with. You have to name that,
Mm-hmm.
or you're being disrespectful when you say this. You have to make them aware of it. Again, you can
Wow.
be polite. You can say that politely without emotion, but you
Mm-hmm.
have to name it.
How would they, what words would they use? Like if you were role playing with me and saying, this is what you should say, what words would you use?
So if somebody, for the situation that woman where she was being spoken over all the time,
Mm-hmm.
I would have gone to my boss and said, hey, in my next one-on-one, I said, hey, I wanted to talk to you about something that's really been concerning me. I've noticed that in meetings, when you ask me a question, I start to answer, you talk over me, and then you go ask John his opinion about it. Can you tell me why?
I don't
Is,
do that.
or, and they say, well, you do. And I would give examples
Okay.
of what you do.
Okay.
And is it because I'm not giving enough information? Like, help me. I really want to understand why that's happening so we can improve this
We
and
can
address
improve
it.
the love it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. This is such a great conversation, a great thing for women to be aware of. And language to use is so
Mhm.
key and important because I feel like, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn here because it's been a lot of years that I've been out of corporate for over 20 years,
Mhm.
but it feels like a great practice for women to get into to understand what's happening, to
Yes.
be able to take a step back and document what's happening so that
Always.
you have that.
Yeah. Always.
Wow. And then to practice what to say. Because
Hmm.
I feel like it, back in the day anyway, it became this, well, I didn't do that. It's a lot of gaslighting or a lot of
Yes.
denial that, oh no, I would never. And most men that I worked with would never try to make a person feel that way, anyone feel
Right.
that.
Right.
But we know what happens.
Yes.
And because there's been a bit of an awakening, I got to feel that now it's more prevalent. If it's happening now, that it's a choice
It
rather
can be.
than, mm-hmm.
Yes, it can be. So there's people that feel privileged to be able
Mm.
to, they use microaggressions, right? They feel that
Oh,
they can say whatever they want to say right now,
mm.
right?
Wow.
And that's going to happen. It can happen around race, it can happen around sex and gender. Those
Mm-hmm.
those situations can happen. You still should address it, but you have to be safe. Depending if they're that type of microaggressor, that there's two types of microaggressors. One is they're intentional. They're doing it on purpose. They're
Mm-hmm.
using it as a microaggression because if they said, for example, a racist comment blatantly, they know they could potentially get in trouble. So they do it a different way, right? They do it in a more
Mm.
subtle way with a microaggression, a joke or
Okay.
something like, oh, it was just a joke.
Lighten up.
You're lighting up too sensitive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the ones that say things and they really didn't, it's ignorance. They didn't realize that would be
Yeah.
offensive. So the ones
Mm-hmm.
where it's ignorance and they didn't realize it would be offensive, if it's someone you care about and you have to work with, just say, hey, that really hurt my feelings. Here's why,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
For the ones who are doing it on purpose, I still would say to address it. This is what you said. I was offended by that. I'd appreciate if you don't do it anymore. If you do, then we're going to have to go to HR.
Mm.
And I would always document it because those people tend to keep doing it.
Oh yeah.
Now,
It's testing the boundaries, right? It's like a
it's
toddler.
very much so testing the boundaries, but you still have to address it because if you don't, they'll
Mm-hmm.
they'll definitely keep doing it.
Oh
If you
yeah.
do address it, they may back off, recognizing it's like a bully. If you stand
Mm-hmm.
up to a bully, they may back off because they know they can't bully you,
Yeah.
right? It's
Right.
similar.
Yeah. And if they're doing it to you, if you've witnessed it, if you're feeling grossed out
Yeah,
about something, it's happening with other people
that's
too.
right. Yes,
Well,
it
and
could
in a
happen
big
to other people.
corporation, I got to believe, why would HR not address that or want to address that? Because that then becomes a cultural issue within the company.
So what happens? Some HR will address it.
Mm-hmm.
Most have to. Legally, you have, depending on what it is, you legally have to address it if it goes to HR.
Okay.
However, what I say in the book and what I tell people is that HR is there for the business. They're not really there for you. As much as they're
Mm,
supposed to be helping people, they're there for the business and they have to walk that fine line. And
mm,
there's great HR people out there for sure, but
mm-hmm.
there's some that feel the own pressure of their job. And
Mm.
if, there's an example in the book where there was this person who was more valued to the business than the woman who they were harassing. I can't remember if it was a sexual harassment case, I think it was.
Oh, wow.
So that person got a slap on the hand. They weren't getting rid of him because he's too valuable to the company. And so HR is, I'm sure they feel the pressure of that and they're told they can't do anything about it.
Wow.
So it's not that you shouldn't go to HR, you should go to HR, but you need to document everything if something like
Right.
that's happening, racism or sexual harassment or something like that. You need to document that.
I hope that that is so short sighted on the part of the company because that then becomes a cultural thing. That's a choice by the company. And that
Yes,
company then is choosing this behavior and this racism or sexism or whatever it is that they're
right,
allowing to continue,
right.
then that's the culture of the company.
Yes, it
And
does become the culture of the company. And then you get dismayed employees who are
mm-hmm,
probably just as good as that one they valued so much and they
mm-hmm,
leave.
yeah, yeah.
And companies get reputations.
Oh, for
There's
sure.
Glassdoor and Fishbowl, their
Yeah,
reputations are talked about.
yeah.
But some don't care, let's face it. Some people don't care. They feel
Wow.
empowered in this current
Atmosphere and
atmosphere.
mm-hmm,
So there are companies out there that do care. And so sometimes the answer is you have to leave.
yeah,
Sometimes you can't always stay. You may have to leave and find a culture that works for you.
right. Well, and eventually I got to believe that's not going to work long term. That
That's
company cannot stay profitable. If that's your culture, if that's your choice,
right.
then that's not going to cultivate profits and
Right.
longevity.
They may be successful, but they're probably not going to be as successful because they now are creating an environment where they only want certain people in there. And then but the world is diverse, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right,
There's
right.
women in the world, they have women who have children, and they want
Mm-hmm.
products that relate to their needs.
Yeah.
Same with different cultures. And so as a business, yeah, you're hurting yourself, I think.
Crappy people create crappy services and products.
Sure.
It's just not long. It's not a long-term strategy. If this is what
No,
you're choosing today,
right.
you're not going to be around very long.
And especially nowadays, and people are very socially conscious, right? So
And savvy.
yeah, and they want to buy from companies who share their values.
Yeah. Yeah. Who are good people.
Yes, right.
Yeah. And you may not know. I mean, some of these big companies, you don't necessarily know who's behind it, but it trickles down and there's a feeling you get.
Yeah,
There's evidence to show. Are you doing good in this world or are you just trying to make a profit and trying to grab every dollar you can get?
right.
What's
Exactly.
important to you?
Yes,
People or profits?
yes. Yeah, and it does become apparent.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. Okay. So what are some other truths in your book or some other language that you would recommend that women pay attention to or start practicing?
I think the big thing is what we said, just being spoken over in the rooms. Some of
Mm-hmm.
these things are very subtle, like credibility. Men have credibility immediately. We have to earn our credibility. We talked about the maternal, right? Women with
Mm-hmm.
children. And then there's another one, I think, is not being visionary or strategic. So
Mm.
we are typically viewed as getting things done.
Mm-hmm.
And we get on those projects to get things done, and we may think that's the greatest thing in the world. But the
Mm-hmm.
reality is they're not putting you on strategic initiatives,
Mm.
which is where a
Interesting.
lot of the promotions come from, right? Because you're
Right.
strategic. I've heard
Mm-hmm.
so many times that people have said to women and even to me, well, you're not strategic enough. You're not allowing me to be strategic. You're not valuing
Right.
my strategic skills. And so I think in that regard, that is a huge bias against women. And the
Mm-hmm.
best way I think to combat that is to show value in what you're doing, making sure that whatever your role is in the company, it is aligned with the business objectives, right, of the company, so
Oh,
that you
uh-huh.
are viewed as helping move the company forward
Uh-huh.
in what you're doing. And the second part, which women don't always do well, is promoting promoting what you're doing and your success, kind of, tooting your own horn, as they say. We don't typically do
Right.
that as women. We just
No,
go
we
and do the
don't.
work, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
have to. You have to make what you're doing visible to your boss. If it's a weekly status report or talking to them about what you're doing
Mm-hmm.
in your one-on-one, or suggesting that you get to the leadership meeting so you can show this project that you've been working on that's bringing in X number of dollars, or helping retain customers. So
Mm-hmm.
tying what you're doing to a business objective and speaking
Mm-hmm.
about it in those terms is that's what helps you get over some of that bias.
Mm. Mm-hmm. I love the idea of the weekly status report because that documents what you've done. It puts numbers to it. It adds
Right.
data, and then you
Right.
have a record. Wow, look at
Yes.
all the things I mean, so many of us, we go through, we put one foot in front of the other, you keep doing your thing.
Right.
And then when it comes time for reviews, you look back and go, what did I do?
What did I do? Right. And
Yeah.
a lot of times we're just doing the little thing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't. You want to have some big things that you're doing, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
that's the showing the value part. Something that's
Mm-hmm.
driving the business forward. Because otherwise you can get stuck in doing into the minutia of
Oh, yeah.
these tasks. We can all do it. I have to remind myself, wait a minute, what am I trying to accomplish here for the company? I have to
Right. What's
remind
the big
myself of that.
picture?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And how
Yeah.
am I
Well, and
helping drive that forward?
as a new, maybe you're a new manager or you're middle management, you're starting your career or in the
Mhm.
middle of your career. When you're at that level, you don't necessarily know the objectives of the company. How do you educate yourself on that? If you're in a company and you're trying to build your career, where would you start?
I would, so the one of the big things that we can do as women to combat bias is building strong relationships one-on-one with people in the company, collaborating across different departments, building relationships, right? Finding a mentor, someone who
Mm-hmm.
might be a level higher. And so if you had that as a younger person, you could go to them and say, look, I want to make sure my department is aligned with the business strategies. What are they? Right? What
Mm-hmm.
do you know what the business objectives are, or who can I talk to that can share the business objectives? Hopefully, most companies will share them, but not all of
Mm-hmm.
them do.
Right. Right.
So trying to figure out what those are, and then having somebody, an ally that you have who, again, has a little bit more experience than you to help you tie those business objectives to what you're doing with your department.
Love that. How do you foster those relationships with that person that's a step above, like that next step where you're trying to go? How do you recommend someone start fostering a relationship like that?
So when I come into a company, I speak to a lot of people at every level. I will ask for a one-on-one, or I just a meet and greet, and just to get to know them. And I maintain that anytime I have a question or I think that they can help me, and I help them if they need anything from me. And I always say, if you need anything from my department or me, just give me a call. And I try and stay in touch with a lot of different people in the
Mm,
organization. And again, at every level. And part of that, as an executive, I want to make sure all levels feel heard, right?
mm-hmm.
And it doesn't, and it's not just my department, I do it across. But I think
Yeah.
as a young person coming in, your internal network is critical, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to remember that, and building those rapport with each other, and just having conversations where you start to get to know each other personally makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And it also combats bias. right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you're speaking to a man and they're getting to know you, they might not think that you don't care about your career because you care about your because you have children. If they know that you're talking to them all the time about business, that helps combat that bias right there. Or
Mm-hmm.
if they know that you are discussing strategic things with them, then that combats that. And then they will speak up for you when they're in the room and you're not in the room, right?
Right.
So
Because their
that,
experience with you is different than their
yes,
preconceived notion.
that's what you're trying, and that's exactly what you're trying to do with these relationships. And you can't do your job alone. And I tell
Right.
marketing teams that all the time. We can't work in a silo. Like we have to work with a lot, and marketing has to work with a lot of different departments. Like almost all in the company we have
Oh,
to work with,
yeah.
right? That's something I teach, and you go find somebody at your level in that department, and then even higher in that department, in those different
Mm-hmm.
departments, and start building relationships with them.
This is really valuable for a young person, especially. I feel like a young woman coming into their career or wanting to build
Yes.
corporately.
Mhm.
And I feel it's a lot, because so many of us pounded our head against the wall
For a
in
long
corporate.
time. Yes.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, the system, we're built to network. The way that we relate with people, are the way that our souls align with what we're doing, with our purpose, our passion.
Right.
So many of us have broken out of corporate to go do our own thing, to
Yes.
start something new. And we come with all this experience from corporate, most of
Right.
us. Yeah. So
Yes.
it's great. And I feel yeah, there's room for both sides. You can, like you were saying, if someone is building a corporate career, that's great. If they're a
Yes.
founder of their own thing, that's great. Whatever
Hmm.
your choice is amazing.
Right.
But I can see why how this is super valuable, especially for the people coming into it, the middle managers, the new
Right.
people out of college, the women out of college, just building
But
new
even
things.
leaders, as the example I gave you was an executive. She was an executive. So
Yeah.
some executives, they don't know how to navigate these situations either. So I think it's for
Right.
leaders as well. And building relationships at a leadership level, when you're at the leadership level, is critical, right? Women don't get the same support and guidance in business in their careers
Mhm.
as the men do. Their networks are more natural. They have conversations, in the hallway, or they go out for drinks and they go play golf. My way of going around that was having these one-on-one relationships. I built it
Mm.
that way, and I found I think it was a better approach because I got to know people more,
Yeah.
right, more deeply. And even for leaders, you have to maintain that. You have to
Yeah.
build those relationships. You have to show value. You have to maintain your profession and keep up with your profession. So it doesn't matter what level you're at, you have to do those
Mhm.
things to be successful.
Yeah. It's the entire reason why I picked up golf.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, right? Because that's
I
what we
was
were
the one
taught.
I was the one back in the office doing all the work while the guys were networking and building their careers out on the
Right,
golf course. Yeah.
right. And they're getting the more visible assignments,
Right.
right?
Right. When I
That's
was
how,
doing their work back at the
yes,
office.
exactly. Right.
Yeah. That's
Yep.
why I started. That's why I
Yeah.
started to golf. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So valuable and just oh, annoying.
Yes. And
So,
common stories and common patterns, right?
right. Right. It, do you feel it's still like how recent was the example that you gave of the executive that was being talked over?
3 years ago. Still happens.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
as
That's,
I said, in the company I was in, there were four female executives, three at
mm-hmm.
first and then four.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time in my career, but it gave me hope,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? That there are people who will value women at that level.
Yeah.
It's not
Exactly.
happening fast enough or enough.
Mm-hmm. Wow, here it is, 2025, and this is the conversation we're having.
Right.
Yeah, when more of us are in executive positions, we
Yes.
can lift others up. It's the glass ceiling thing,
Right.
just showing that is possible, showing how it can look, showing
Yes.
how we can support each other and build an amazing company with a great culture that
Right.
supports other people
Yeah.
over.
And,
Yeah.
and we need male allies. I mean, and there are
Oh
definitely
yeah.
male allies, but
Yep.
we need male allies because I don't think men recognize that. The men that I'm speaking to, they admit that they don't understand the experience we have. Their experience going to work every day is very different than ours.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And
Mm-hmm.
they're not aware of that. And that's another thing with this book. I want men to read it because I want them to be
Mm-hmm.
aware of what we're dealing with
Mm-hmm.
on a daily basis.
Yeah.
We just want to
Yeah.
come to work and do our job, just like they, right? We just want
Yeah.
to come to work and do our job.
Just work together. I want to
Yeah.
do I want to follow my passion. I want to use my gifts
Right.
and contribute.
Right. Just like they do. Same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Is your book out?
It's out on November 5th.
Oh, how fun.
It's print on demand and it'll be
Oh,
on
okay.
Amazon.
I'll make sure that that's in the show notes so people can find it.
That would be great.
That's amazing. Okay, so can I switch gears on you?
Yes, of course.
Wonderful. At the end of every conversation, I love to bring it around to something super fun. Like,
Mhm.
what's your favorite cocktail?
So I prefer mocktails over cocktails.
Okay, okay. Nothing wrong with
But
that.
thankfully there's a lot more mocktails available than
Yes,
ever,
that's
which I
becoming a thing.
it is becoming a thing. It's pretty exciting, actually. I went to a thing here where I live, and it was only mocktails, and it was very
Wow.
cool. And at a
Yeah.
restaurant, they did it kind of in the winter. It was really fun.
Hmm.
So my favorite mocktail is typically a combination of lavender and elderflower with like a
Oh,
sparkling water or something.
oh, I just got goosebumps.
I love those. I really love
Elderflower
those. It's
and
very fresh.
lavender.
Yeah.
Yes, a little floral and
Yeah. Now I know
oh,
there's gin drinks that have those in too, typically, but
yes.
this one is without gin.
My
Uh,
wheels were turning. Yes.
yeah, but yeah, you could mix it in a gin drink. That would be great. But
Yeah.
yeah, this
Do you
is
add
just
lemon to that? Have you ever added a little
yeah,
spritz of lemon? Yep.
lemon too.
I think that would be lovely.
That would be good. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so what's a fun conversation? I mean, because we talk about careers when we get together too, but
Yeah.
what's a fun conversation with girlfriends?
My most fun conversation is with girlfriends or even my sisters who are my best friends and my nieces
Yes.
is we talk a lot about books we've read or movies we've
Yeah.
watched and
Uh-huh.
I love that because I read a lot. So having
Yeah.
those conversations and then, sometimes if we're hiking or on the beach, it's we talk about what's ever going on. You know what I mean? If it's a
Mm-hmm.
mom and they want to talk about the being a mom and working or um, art or whatever's on our minds at the time,
Yeah.
right? I just love when women are together and we have those unique moments to share experiences that maybe our husbands or partners or wouldn't necessarily relate to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
I feel like
I
it's
enjoy that.
easy. It's easy to talk with our girlfriends and our sisters and aunts and
Yeah,
nieces about
yeah,
things. It just feels like when you get back together, even if you've been apart for a while, it just
yes,
flows naturally.
right. Yeah, and I love that. I have best friends that I've had since I was, we were in grade school, and
Yeah.
just being able to have those conversations. And it's nice to know somebody for that long as well, right? Because you can say whatever you want to say, and they have the context of your whole life,
Right.
right? To
Yeah.
advise you. And yeah.
Yeah.
And I think as we age, our female relationships, whatever they are, sisters,
Hmm.
friends, partners, whatever it is, they become more important
Oh, yeah.
to us as we've aged. And I noticed that starting
Absolutely.
like in my 40, when I turned 40, like my friends mattered so much more to me
Yeah.
in a deeper way,
Yeah.
than when you're younger.
Absolutely. Well, when we're younger, if you're not raising kids, you're building your career or
That's right.
both at the
Yes.
same time.
Yeah.
You're putting one foot in front of the other in those 20s and 30s. I feel like when I look
Yes.
back, it's like I
Hmm.
just kept going. And now I choose who I spend time with now
That's
instead
right.
of
Yes. We value that time more. Um,
yes.
right. Because we know that we don't have forever, I think is part of it.
Yeah,
Right.
right. Time's a ticking.
Yeah. And yes, you're right. When, as I say to my nieces, they're in the building stages of they're building everything. They're building their career, they're building their family, they're building their relationship. They may be building a household. Like you're
Yeah.
building, building, building.
All
You're
the
just
things.
so exhausted and,
Yeah.
but as we get through that, now you start to enjoy, you reap the benefits of all that, right,
Right.
that you built.
Right. Exactly. Oh, wow. Okay, this has been amazing.
Yes, I've enjoyed the conversation so much.
Thank you so much for your wisdom and your advice, the stories.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for
Feels
having me on your podcast, Penny. I really appreciate it, and I
absolutely
enjoyed the conversation as well.
wonderful. You have a fabulous rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
All right, thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. That's a wrap on this episode of Penny for Your Shots. If you loved today's conversation, don't let the inspiration stop here. Get my weekly insider updates straight to your inbox. It's where I spill behind the scenes goodies, exclusive tips, and all the fun stuff I don't always share on the podcast. Sign up now at pennyforyourshots.com/insider. I'll see you in your inbox next Thirsty Thursday. Cheers.